Hey, Buddy Manning here. Welcome to round two of our attempt to talk Celtics Cavs. Welcome back in, everybody here. And of course, tomorrow we get the undefeated Cavs going against the champion Celtics second round rematch here, as we always do when we talk Cavs. We got Justin Rowan here from the Chase Down podcast. Not going to run back over everything we talked so far. Went through a little Cavs, what's different this year, Mobley's success, all that's been a big part, along with better pace, better offense for that team. And I think the Kenny Atkinson thing is worth tracking back on here, Justin, because obviously there's a team that's running it back, had a lot of injury issues last year, and we didn't really get to see them at full here, but they make a coaching change. One that, despite as high as I was on this team, I wasn't sure about that one. I know sometimes it has to happen, but I feel like JB was great there and built this awesome defensive structure. I wouldn't have liked that move as much if it wasn't Kenny coming in, because just a phenomenal offensive coach, a guy who, through all his ingenuity in Brooklyn and, was obviously part of the Warriors team that beat the Celtics a couple of years ago on that staff. I felt great about him coming in here and making some needed changes offensively. So what have you seen from him and what he's implemented so far to shake up this offense and make it the number one offense in the league?
Yeah, I think Kenny has really benefited from his experience, and it's something he's talked about a lot. Where he took the firing in Brooklyn pretty hard, and there's a lot of self evaluation and stuff like that. And then he had the opportunity to coach under Ty Lue. He had the opportunity to coach under Steve Kerr. We got to be part of a championship there, and really kind of embrace the challenge of continuous improvement and learning how to manage those star personalities. And coming to Cleveland, thing he's talked about a lot is we're not going to change up everything, right? Like we're not going to change up what we're doing defensively because there's such a strong foundation there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to the offense because the funny thing about the offense, a lot of it was coordinated by Luke Walton, coming from that Warriors system. There was already a foundation of, all right, we have some split cuts. We have, sets where Mobley's bringing up the ball. What's really kind of changed has been just I guess the ability to get buy-in and just cleaning up the low-hanging fruit, right? Like making sure that nobody is passing up those open shots. We've seen it time and time again with Darius Garland where teams would go under and he's such a pass first player, he wasn't punishing them consistently. Now Garland is taking those shots every single time, and that's forcing the defenses to have to play him honestly, to kind of pick their poison. We're seeing more off-ball opportunities for both Darius and Donovan Mitchell as a result of Evan Mobley generating offense. We're just seeing, consistent ball movement. One of the things that he did throughout training camp was they would practice with an 18-second shot clock. Rather than the full 24, just to really emphasize, hey, we got to get this tempo up. Like the funny thing is, it's not like the starting five is playing dramatically quicker. In fact, when I checked 2 games ago, the last time they had all played, all four of them, they're actually playing like a possession slower when you look at the pace. But the biggest difference is that pace is no longer grinding to a halt when it gets to crunch time. They are consistently running their offensive sets even when they get tired. And that was the biggest thing. They would get out, they would do good things at times last year. But when push came to shove, when they played some of the best defenses, when it came to the playoffs, the bad habits would all come through. And I think cleaning up the low hanging fruit and really just getting that across the board buy in from the players and building off of the foundation that was already there. That's kind of been the secret recipe here that's made Atkinson so effective so far as a Cavs head coach.
Yeah, and I think they're in a good position to take advantage of the Celtics where they're vulnerable right now. And we talked about a little bit in our first recording there. The Celtics rim protection issues. I think they were 23rd in opposing percentages around the rim last time I looked, 27th in points in the paint. The Raptors just hammered them the other night.
Mhm.
So that's going to be a spot where obviously the Cavs are efficient, effective. They can get the ball in there to Mobley. They can get the ball in there to Allen in particular, who I'm excited to see. And what I was saying before we came off the other stream that's pretty cool about this Cavs start here is, I love this team a year ago when we saw them in more full positions. Obviously, Ty Jerome's a guy who only played 2 games last year that's now back in the fold and looking good. So all of that I'd say is exciting because you're going to see this team now as it always could have been. And if, whether Mitchell left or they traded Garland or Allen or whoever that might have been, we always would have been looking back at this like, oh man, what if they were just healthy that year? What would this have looked like, or what could they have done? That's all what we're seeing right now. Like, you get that extra chance now, you get a new coach, and this obviously is a team that has major, major potential. But based on what we've seen so far, who they've played, that whole thing, how real is this? Like, is this going to be one of the best teams in the NBA this year? Is this a team that could push the Celtics in the East when push comes to shove?
Yeah, I think Boston should remain the title favorite, and I think going into series, I would pick Boston in that series. But I do think that the Cavs are kind of uniquely situated to push them, right? Like I think they've played Boston very well over the last couple of years. We've seen the two big tandem be very effective against them. I thought they did a good job last year, not only game two where they went into Boston and had that blowout win, but even game four with no Mitchell, no Allen. That game really came down to the wire, and Boston had 30 more free throws in that game, and I'll always be a bitter fan of. I'll always be a
That's
bitter
your
fan
what
about
if.
that. Yeah, because I'm not like you. You have to be a journalist that's objective. I can be a biased fan and complain about stuff like that. But I thought they were clearly even in that game. No Mitchell, no Allen. Garland was a shell of himself. Mobley was playing through a high ankle sprain throughout that series. So there was a lot of things going against them, but they found ways to be competitive. The Garland, Mitchell, Strus, and Mobley four-man unit had a positive net rating against Boston in the playoffs. It had an elite defensive rating, which you always wonder, can the two guards hold up defensively when they're playing an elite offense like Boston? Is the two bigs enough to cover up for it? Well, you didn't have the two bigs, and you had a 6'5" small forward in Max Strus, and you did hold up well defensively. So I think stuff like that is at least encouraging. I do think Boston with Porzingis is a different animal. Boston with Jason Tatum having a corrected jumper is a different animal than we saw in the playoffs last year. So it's never going to be a one-to-one comparison. But I think the Cavs are really putting themselves in a good position to, avoid Boston until the conference finals. And I think, what we've seen in the playoffs the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years is you just got to kind of hang around. You got to, be competitive, be in position to capitalize on lucky breaks if they come along. And I think the Cavs certainly can, challenge Boston and maybe take advantage of an opportunity there. But this is a team that should have some runway moving forward as well.
Yeah, and I feel good about their chances tomorrow. I think the Celtics are 4-point favorites at home, and the one thing that's
They
going to be
should be. Yeah,
interesting to
Boston
watch.
absolutely should be. All every small forward is dead for the Cavs right now.
Yes, right, and that's a factor here for sure. How are they going to stay in front of Tatum and Brown with all those wings out? When they're healthy, I think they have some wing questions here, as
They do.
we've
Yep.
talked about for years now. So with Wade out, and Wade's officially out for this game, Dean Wade, Okoro, Merrill, and
Levert.
who's Levert as well. Wow, like that's all
Yeah.
their wings right there, pretty
And
much.
Strus out. We
Questionable.
gotta add Max Strus to the equation as well. He's out.
Yeah, and he's been out for most of the season. So that's definitely a concern tomorrow. Celtics concern, no Porzingis. Bad rim protection start this year. So vulnerabilities on both sides. I'm interested to see how that shakes out. But when both sides are full, if it does come down to a playoff series, the one thing I'm going to look at so far that I do find interesting here is I think the Cavs are taking better quality threes overall from the numbers I've looked at. But they're not getting up the total, certainly, that Boston is. And who is, right?
Hmm.
I mean, they just take it to the extreme. They did it last year, and now they've taken it to another level this year. And you just see team after team. And the Raptors actually did a pretty good job of it on Saturday. I don't know how they did, taking no threes and keeping up with the Celtics through points in the paint alone. But for most teams on the opposite side of this, you just look up at the 3-point totals at the end of the game and how many threes each team's hitting. And it's just a staggering amount that you have to overcome as a team going against Boston here. And, the Cavs, they got Mitchell who can get him up on his own, and Garland, a pretty solid 3-point shooter, and he's on fire to start this year.
Yeah.
You got some wings who are off to solid starts there, but you also have the two non-shooting effectively bigs there. So in this matchup, it's going to be interesting to see what weighs out heavier here, the Cavs' interior scoring or the Celtics' ability to just get threes up in droves.
Yeah, and Cleveland has taken funny enough, they've taken a step back in terms of the volume of 3-pointers that they take. They're now
And that
13.
surprised me.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's really just a result of how the offense plays, which is, equal opportunity. Let's attack what the defense is giving us. And we really have seen them kind of come out bombs away in the first quarter where they are getting a lot of threes up. And then the defense gets into such a scramble trying to contain their 3-point shooting that they're just feasting at the rim. Like they are generating easy opportunities at the rim and they kill you in points of the paint. So I don't think it's necessarily a philosophy of, not taking as many threes or anything like that. I think they are capable of getting up 40, 50 threes if that's what the defense is giving them, and they're very comfortable doing that. But they're looking for the highest quality shot at all times. They are looking for early opportunities offensively. And if those are coming at the 3-point line, I think they're going to take them. I think they're going to have to get into a shootout with Boston. Like, I think as counterintuitive as that is, they're missing depth on the wing when it comes to their ability to guard defensively. One of the things they've kind of fallen back on, throughout the season so far is going to a zone to throw teams off. It gets teams out of zones, bombing away from three. Know what Boston wants to do? Bomb away from three. So I think Cleveland is going to have to play this relatively straight up. And, if they're feasting at the rim, like I think they're going to continue to hunt those shots. But as soon as you try to account for that, they are going to kick it out. They are going to generate wide open 3-point looks. And, that's part of why they currently have the best offensive rating in NBA history. Like it's the number one offensive rating in the league so far. I think it's a good example of, and honestly, I think Boston gets a bad rap when people talk about, jacking up threes and whatnot. Boston gets that many threes up because they have 5 playmakers on the court at all times. Like
Yep.
they generate high quality looks. It's not like the Houston James Harden Rockets where, just running pick and roll, spamming to spot up shooters. Their 3-pointers are the result of their excellent playmaking. And I think Cleveland is really leveraging a lot of playmaking with their lineups. You talk about Mobley and Allen not being high volume 3-point shooters. Spacing's been fantastic with those two. The offense has been fantastic with those two because both of them are quality playmakers and they are very mobile bigs. And I think that's something that's carried over from Golden State, where Golden State always had really good spacing. They didn't always have really good shooters. You think back to the strength in numbers teams, Leandro Barbosa, Sean Livingston, Draymond Green, Andrew Bogut. Like there are so many, Festus Ezeli, like there are so many non-shooters on the court, but it never felt that way because there was always structure, there was always playmaking, there was always movement. And I think that has been one of the big things that Kenny Atkinson has brought to this offense.
Yeah, and it's interesting you throw the zone point out there. I wonder if we'll see that tomorrow. The Celtics haven't seen much of that from opponents to
You
start
will
this
see zone.
year.
I promise you will see zone. They're running it at the highest rate in the league. I don't love the zone defense. It's probably like the one kind of nitpicking thing that I got to do, but it has overall been pretty effective.
Yeah, and I could see it being effective against the Celtics, who haven't gone inside often. I think Tatum's been a good place as a playmaker to start this year, but it helps to have Porzingis out there in the high post against the zone, or at least a big that can threaten you a little bit in there. Offensive rebounding, that's something they wanted to do at a high level to start this year, and they haven't been amazing at it. So that's another way you can beat the zone that they haven't done to start this year. And of course, the threes, whether that's there or not tomorrow, is going to be a big deal. They've cooled off a little bit to start this year after a hot start, especially on opening night there against the Knicks. So it's going to be an interesting game strategically. It really is. And I know there's some absences on both sides that won't give us a full picture here. But if you want to get into the building tomorrow, go check out the tickets on Game Time. I'm sure, as always, there's some great deals leading up to Game Time, especially on a Tuesday night. It's a big game, but Game Time gives you the best deals right in front of you. Shows you where you're going to sit with panoramic views, which is my favorite feature about using it. There's flash and zone deals going on all the time as well. And a lot of Patriots games down the stretch of the season. If you want to go see Drake May and Gillette, that's going on, as well as Bruins and concerts and events. They got it all over there in Game Time. So go check it out. Use code SteelNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Great experience over there. Been using it for a long time. So go download it, check it out. Use that code SteelNS for $20 off your first purchase. And again, another shout out to Prize Picks. Use the code CLNS right now. Pick more or less 2 more players and you have your team for the week, whether it's football or basketball. A lot of injuries going on right now, but Prize Picks gives you injury insurance, so your lineup stays in play if someone goes down in the first half. So play $5 and get $50 instantly over there with the code CLNS. Go check it out, download it. Great experience, a lot of fun, especially leading up to these Celtics games. You can see what they think each guy's going to put out in terms of points, rebounds, assists, and all the rest. Tatum hitting in a big way over there in the Prize Picks. So use the code CLNS and get that offer over there and let them know we sent you. So continuing on with our Cavs talk here. They've been interesting to watch this year. Obviously, Garland's in a much better place off the injuries. And he obviously got all the Celtics pressure in that series a year ago with Mitchell out especially. And Mobley, who I felt like at times was so tentative offensively in the past, just flourishing in a new way offensively. They're empowering him with the ball in his hands. There's a lot of interesting stuff that they're doing with him in particular. And it's good that Garland, stayed it out here. Like that definitely could have been something that went a different way over the summer there. And he stays, and whether it's him playing off Mitchell or Mitchell playing off him, there's a lot of variety there that they can go to offensively. And then you throw in Mobley as a ball handler too. And Levert when he's out there. Like you don't have 5 playmakers out there, but we've seen Allen grow in that category too. So it's not traditional, but there's a lot of playmaking on that Cleveland side too. Even Ty Jerome, I love.
I would argue they do have 5 playmakers out there because when you look at kind of like the assist percentage and stuff like that, Jared Allen last year was right there with like playmaking bigs like Isaiah Hardenstein. Like he's someone that does, get those short roll opportunities. He's a very intelligent passer. He's very good at kind of in the half court. He's a nice connecting piece there. But you're right. Getting Darius back, not only him returning to the team, but returning to form and exceeding anything that we've seen in the past has been the biggest thing. Because I've consistently said, like, Darius is a straw that stirs the drink offensively. When they had their best season as a team in 22-23, the difference between Darius being on court and off court offensively was the difference between a number 2 offense in the league and the 29th offense in the league. We're seeing that once again this year, where when Darius is on the court, they have a 126 offensive rating. They have a 112 offensive rating when he's off the court. Normally you kind of assume that it's Donovan Mitchell that's leading that charge, but the offense has actually been 12 points better when Mitchell is on the bench versus when he's on the court. And I don't say that to say, that Donovan's been bad offensively. I think Donovan's had a very nice season, and it's kind of more speaks to the balance that they've had offensively, that they haven't had to overburden Donovan Mitchell. And I think when Darius is rolling, he elevates everyone else's game in a way nobody else on the team does. So I think moving on from him would have been a monumental mistake, especially when you think about where his trade value probably was at coming off such an injured and bad season.
So there's the Cavs. What are your Celtics thought to start this year? Because not a ton's different here. Same players back for the most part. I think the biggest revelation is obviously Keita being in that mix at center after signing a 2-way deal a year ago, having a big impact there, particularly on the defense when he's played. And I'm sure he'll be a big part of this matchup tomorrow as well with all the bigs that the Cavs play. Pritchard, who's actually questionable for this game, which is rare. I mean, he played 82 last year, has a thumb sprain. So I'm sure he'll try to go through it, but he is on the injury report headed tomorrow, and he's probably the biggest other revelation here, the 6th man of the year favorite after 2 years ago having no minutes on this team with Brogdon here. So that's been a major difference on this team as well compared to a year ago, where he was solid and would give you spurts, but every night he's been given 25, 30 minutes and a major shooting as well as playmaking burst for this group.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on Boston is they're the title favorite. I think they are by far, the best team in the NBA. I've seen some kind of hand wringing about, not taking teams as seriously. Like you mentioned how Toronto was able to get to the rim at will. I think that's a veteran team that's got a lot of older players that's looking at.
They lost to the
team.
Hawks without Young.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff happens, man, especially early in the season. Like teams don't take their preseason seriously anymore. So the first few weeks of the season basically are preseason.
So you've been through this. 2016, the Cavs win. They mostly run it back in 17.
Yeah.
Is that what you saw that regular season? Just some nights like that?
Not as much because I think Kevin Durant to the Warriors kind of energized them, where they're like, we gotta kind of get this thing together. They brought in Kyle Korver that season. That was kind of their early like November trade acquisition, and for my money, the 2017 Cavs were the best roster that the franchise has ever assembled. I think by far that was the best team they've ever assembled. So it's a little bit different, but when you look at Boston, it's a different situation because you got guys that had not only a very long NBA season, but they're coming off an Olympics, where they were traveling with the team, whether or not they were playing. In Jason Tatum's case, that's
Yeah,
still
he didn't have a long Olympic run.
it's not downtime though, right? Like you're still traveling with the team. You're dealing with it. You're practicing. You're doing all that kind of stuff. Like it's a very very long season, and they're managing the Kristaps Porzingis situation as well. Like they're going to take a conservative approach to the regular season because they are so damn good and the floor is so damn high that they're going to end up with a top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, basically, even if they are coasting. So I'm not concerned about the Celtics at all. I think that they are, by far the class of the league. I expect the effort level Tuesday to be higher than we've seen from Boston basically all season. I expect it to look more like opening night against the Knicks than any of those other games. But being able to flip the switch, that's not always a guarantee. But I think that's going to be a game that they get up for, and not just because it's the NBA Cup.
Yeah, and it's weird, this East, we knew it'd take a step back this year beyond even what it was, but man, I don't think either of us expected how bad it's been for the most part here, and I
And
know
I
there's
don't, I
been
don't
some
think it's as
injuries and
bad
stuff.
as I don't think it's as bad as the standings either. Like I think so much of it has to do with injuries. Like all these teams have gone so banged up. Like Orlando's a very good team if they have Paolo Banchero. I think
Right.
the Sixers, if everyone was there, I think that they would be right up there too, right? Like Indy's even getting banged up. You got Achilles blowing out left, right, and center. You got
But
Nemhard missing time.
it's probably panic time for the Bucks, right?
Yeah, like all due respect, I just like they have not found ways to get better. They have gotten older. They have not gotten better. And Gary Trent Jr. There's reporting out there that Toronto didn't want to give him $5 million a year. When you have a 25-year-old and a team that is desperate to have young talent, if a franchise is willing to move away from a 25-year-old, that's probably not a good sign. DeLon Wright hasn't kind of elevated things. Obviously, they're missing Chris Middleton, but I feel like the East has kind of passed them by, and I think as a Celtics fan and as a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, we should be very, very happy that the New York Knicks gave up all of their picks and all their asset chest for Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns rather than waiting for Giannis to become available.
Right, and that's even if they get a little healthier, and the only guy who can really come back there is Mitchell Robinson, who's been on and off the court for the most part anyway, beyond this one big injury here. That one I'm not feeling good about at all, and I started to really turn on them a little bit as the season got closer and started thinking about their depth and what
Yeah.
Towns has been defensively, and it's been a disaster on that end, as good as he's been offensively there. But
And the
they'll be a
biggest thing to
playoff
me,
team.
the biggest thing to me though is, and I think in this modern NBA where parity is such a big deal, I don't think any team is completely devoid of talent. Like you look at the worst teams in the league, like Toronto Raptors right now, they're still competitive in every single game because they've got a decent amount of talent. I just think what you see and what you're seeing with these records is because the baseline is so high. If you don't kind of have that star talent and you don't have the depth to kind of get you over the hump, or if you're a team like Philly that sacrificed the depth to get the high end talent, if you're missing that high end talent, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Cavs, they've been able to navigate, losing Max Strus for the start of the season here. They've been able to sit Evan Mobley when he was out with an illness. They've been able to sit Donovan Mitchell to give him a rest. Because they've got 4 all-star level talents. If you still have, a deep bench and 3 all-star level talents out there on the court, they're functionally the 21-22 Cleveland Cavaliers that were the 2 seed heading into the all-star break won 44 games, even with all the injuries that they had. Like, that was still a very, very high kind of floor. And I think the supporting cast, when you look at guys like Ty Jerome, Karis LeVert acclimated to the system, Sam Merrill, like, I think the supporting cast is even better than that. So they have such a high floor, whereas some of these teams that sacrifice that depth to get the high end talent, that talent is missing time. You're going to get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what teams actually make the playoffs out there in the East. It's pretty early to start thinking about that, but one thing is going to change here pretty quickly if the Celtics are going to run away with this East here. Kristaps Porzingis seems like he's on the verge of a return here. He practiced today with the G League team. That's where this could get scary for the
Awesome.
East, especially
I'm
where
I obviously, you know, as a Cavs fan, get lucky breaks. That would be great. I love it, but I want this team to measure themselves against the best in the league. I want to see Kristaps Porzingis back. I want to see Boston fully healthy. I think being able to test yourself, iron sharpens iron. Like, you figure out where you have to improve internally. You figure out, you know, what we have to do from an off-season perspective, from a trade perspective, all that kind of stuff. I want to see the Cavs face the Celtics at full health. I want both teams to be fully healthy. I obviously pick Boston in that situation, but you know, I want to see, can the Cavs give them a competitive 6-7 game series? You know, when you look at both age and finances, I don't know if this Boston team's going to be able to keep it together forever. So if the Cavs are right there with a core that is very young, and you know, they're starting to get picks back from the Mitchell trade and stuff like that. Like, I think being able to hang around and capitalize if the door does get creaked open, I think that's kind of where you want to be as the Cavs organization.
who you got tomorrow? Who you see winning this one?
If Okoro plays, I'll feel better about it. If we do have Okoro, Merrill, and LeVert all playing, I'll be a homer here and I'll pick Cleveland. My gut says Boston. I think Boston's going to come out and give their best effort of the season. And given the talent that they have, given the fact that it's at home, given that it's the NBA Cup and everyone gets excited about that, I
Must-win cup game.
Must-win cup game. Yeah, exactly. You guys have your back against the wall, but Cleveland's gotten up for these games too, man. Like, I think back to the game where the Lakers were coming into town. You know, LeBron James, all the the national shows are talking about, like, they're a serious contender. They're looking like one of the best teams in the league early in the season. And the Cavs just buzzsawed them, like, just absolutely smoked them. Warriors come in, second best defense in the league. First real test that this Cavs offense is going to have to face. They look like a contender again, and the Cavs were up 41 at halftime. Like, they've gotten up for a lot of these games, and even if they are missing, Max Strus and Dean Wade, they still do have kind of the core four. And I was very, very, very relieved to not see Darius Garland's name on the injury report coming in this one. He missed some time in the Charlotte game. It seemed like his back was acting up. But the fact that he's not carrying a questionable designation is obviously a really good sign.
Yeah, I'll go Cavs here. I think that rim protection issue is a big one for Boston right now, and I don't know how they're going to keep those guys off the glass, prevent them from scoring in there, and the pace too. Like, there's some things to figure out for Boston defensively right now that I think are going to be a problem in this game. But if it's bombs away from three and they're 40%, it could be a Boston blowout as well. But I'm going to lean Cleveland in this one. But either way, going to be a fun game tomorrow. I want to give a quick shout out before we get out of here to Built right now over on Built. Joinbuilt.com is where you want to go. And if you haven't heard of them, well, earning points on your rent is now a reality when you pay your rent through Built. You don't even have to check with your landlord to start earning points that you can use toward flights, hotel stays, fitness classes, and even your next rent payment. If you're a renter, I'd start taking advantage of Built if I were you. Here's the thing. We earn points on groceries, travel, practically everything else we buy. We should also be earning points on rent, one of our biggest monthly expenses. Built changed the game by letting renters earn high-value points on rent around their neighborhood. So there's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There's over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world that you can redeem your Built points towards. Points can also be redeemed toward a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question's why not start earning them on the rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/garden. That's joinbuilt.com/garden. Joinbuilt.com/garden. Thanks to Justin Rowan for being here. Really looking forward to this game tomorrow, and I'm sure the Chase Down guys will be breaking it down over there after, as we will be here on Celtics post game. Justin, good talking to you as always.
Good talking to you, and I really hope that Kristaps Porzingis and Max Strus are back for the rematch that we have in early December. I'm hoping we get to get a taste of both of these teams fully healthy.
Yeah, next one's right around the corner, just a couple weeks away in Cleveland, and that was a great atmosphere during the playoffs. I really enjoyed going out there and checking it out. So we'll see you tomorrow night from the Garden. Thanks, Justin. We'll talk to you in December. And that's it for now. Noah Dalzell, You Got Boston coming up right now live on CLNS Media and Celtics All Access. See you guys.